Well, click, click, get ready for your Kodak moment.
Welcome to One-on-One, a Bluff City Media podcast. Listen in as we go one-on-one with coaches, players, and influencers from across the city of Memphis and around the country. Now, let's get to the show.
What's up, everybody? This is Christian Fowler with Bluff City Media, and welcome back to this week's episode of One-on-One. And with me this week is a good friend of mine, now at Grind City Media, also of CBS Sports, Gary Parrish. Gary, what's up, man?
Everything's good in my world. Appreciate you inviting me out.
Absolutely. So let's start with that. Let's start with Grind City Media, the new gig. How's it been? How's the transition been so far?
It's been great. I was really lucky to even be presented with this opportunity. I was at 92.9, obviously, for 13 years. Didn't have any intention on leaving. I'd had opportunities previously to, go to bigger markets, even do a national show. The Grizzlies had come after me before, and I was happy there and enjoying what I was doing. But this time, as my contract was expiring, the Grizzlies, came back to the table and really put just an opportunity in front of me that I felt like this time was too good to pass up. And, we talked to the people at 92.9. I left on totally good terms. I still consider those people my friends. There was, when you break up, for lack of a better word, after that many years, often there can be some hard feelings. And I don't want to speak for anybody else.
Yeah.
But I felt like I left there in a pretty good place, and everybody was really kind going out the door and did nothing but wish me well. So, I come over to Grind City, and it's a new thing. I think my instincts were, I'm just going to take the radio show that I've been doing and turn it into, a video show with, that'll be different, but like fundamentally can be the same type of thing. And honestly, 2 weeks into it, I was like, okay, I need to change some things up. There's something I'm doing that I don't like. These are things I do like. It's just different. And so I'm still getting comfortable with it, but it's fun. It's nice to be back in the rhythm of doing a show again, because for the first time in like 15 years, in the month of January, February, and March, I didn't do shows.
Yeah.
The Grizzlies wanted me to be done with college basketball before I launched the new show. Also wanted to build a new studio inside FedEx Forum. All of that takes time. We had to hire people. So I didn't launch the show until 2 weeks after the national championship game, middle of April. So it was nice to have that time to sort of recharge, but it was also strange to not, because I live my day-to-day life, like everything I'm watching, everything I'm seeing, I'm thinking through the lens of, would this work for the show? Where would I put it? What would I say about it? And suddenly I spent January, February, March, like, I don't need to, I'm not going to talk about this tomorrow.
Right.
So I don't need to think about it anymore. That was weird. But, the Grizzlies were kind enough. They put me on payroll January 1st, and really I didn't have to work until middle of April. That's a good gig.
You can't complain about that.
I would advise anybody to take one of those if you can get it. Getting paid not to work is nice, but it's been great. It's different. I try never to compare one to the other. I enjoyed what I was doing.
Right.
And now I'm enjoying what I'm doing as well.
Yeah, to me, obviously I haven't been in the field extremely long, but just in the 5.5, 6 years that I've been doing this, the landscape has changed so much. So much about written content in the beginning, even as podcasting had become huge, like written content was still felt like king. And then you had podcasting, and now it's like we've gone digital, like completely. How crazy has it been over the last, I would say 5 to 10 years since podcasting came in? How crazy has that transition been for you, someone who kind of has worked in every field?
Well, like I always tell people, when I was in college, they literally, like, okay, I'm going to major in journalism. It's pretty broad, but they would tell you to narrow your focus. So they would say, do you want to be a writer for a newspaper? Keep in mind, I graduated college in 1999. So it's like, do you want to be a writer? Or do you want to be in TV? Or do you want to be on radio? Or do you want to be in public relations? Pick one, because you can't do them all.
Yeah.
So pick one. So I picked writing because I had professors tell me I had a talent for writing, whether it was true or not. So I figured that was my best path toward becoming what I wanted to be, which was just work at the Commercial Appeal and cover Tiger basketball. Those were my aspirations. Mm-hmm. And now writing is the thing I do least.
Yep.
I am more of a television personality, analyst, podcast host. I still write, but writing is way down the list of things of what I do now. It's not the best use of my time. So it is wild that I went to college to be a writer, became a, moderately successful one. I got the job at CBSSports.com when I was still in my 20s. Got hired at the commercial appeal straight out of college. Like, neither of those things are normal necessarily. And my job was to, when I got it in 2006 at CBS Sports, my job was to write 3 columns a day. 3 columns a week. That was it. 3 columns a week during the season, maybe 1 in the week in the offseason. That's it. That's the entire job description.
Yep.
Now, during the season, I rank 26 basketball teams every morning. I host a podcast 3 times a week. I fly to New York every Monday. I'm in studio every Tuesday, Wednesday night, fly home on Thursdays. Sometimes I'm doing sideline reporting on the weekends. I do CBS Sports HQ. I host shows for CBS Sports Network. And when I have time, I write.
It's on the back burner.
It is way on the back. In fact, I think if I went to my bosses and said, hey, I'm overwhelmed, I need to cut something.
That's the first thing that goes.
That's the first thing they would want to cut.
Right.
It's the least valuable thing that I do. It might be the thing, and I'll let other people determine it. It might be the thing I'm most talented to do. It is undeniably the thing that allowed me to do all these other things.
Right.
But it is the least valuable thing I do now. I hold more value in a television studio, in a podcast studio, doing those types of things, which is cool because I enjoy it. But man, it's never what I thought I was going to be. Like, sometimes people ask, did you ever think? No, I never thought. Like, some of this stuff didn't even exist. Like, podcasts weren't a thing when I was coming out of college. So to now be doing what amounts to a daily podcast for Grind City Media, and then 3 podcasts a week for CBS Sports, it's a lot of talking. But I enjoy it. I'm lucky, man. I don't know that I deserve everything that I've gotten. Sometimes you wonder why me and not somebody else. But I don't take it for granted. I have reached a point in my career where honestly I have more than I ever thought I would have. Perhaps again more than I deserve, but I'm one of the lucky ones. When you look around and they're really talented people I know who've lost jobs, and layoffs just happened at ESPN recently. Though I know some of those people, like they're good people and talented people, and I'm sitting here, knock on whatever, at the age of 46. I've never not got a job that I was pursuing. I've never not had a contract extension that I wanted. I've been really, really, really lucky.
Yeah, to me, just the way that things have changed is absurd. Like, I was at the University of Memphis 3 weeks ago speaking to students that were about to graduate, and I was talking to some of my old professors about classes they have now. Like, now they have basically what amounts to TikTok classes, like teaching you how to make TikToks and reels and
social media classes are important.
Yeah.
We've got a young woman who works with us at CBS Sports, and she is like our social media person. And she literally, I don't know if she majored in social media, but she more or less majored in social media. That's a huge part of this. And that's even the part that I haven't tapped into yet. In part because I don't even know that it's appropriate. I'm a 46-year-old man. I don't know that I need to be on TikTok making TikTok videos, right? But boy, I tell you, when they make a TikTok video,
it does well.
It does well. Yeah, it's a different world. Oh, like tweeting didn't exist when I was, even when I had the job initially at CBS Sports. Like, I can remember me and Jeff Goodman, we'd get frustrated. Jeff was at Fox Sports and I was at CBS Sports, and he and I would break stories. But you could only break them on their website. It wasn't like you could tweet it and say, hey,
this is breaking news.
This is breaking news. And at the time, we didn't have television networks with tickets. So it would get so frustrating. Like, I would break something or he would break something, and then Andy Katz would break it.
Yeah.
7 minutes later, it would be on ESPN's ticker. Everybody's like, oh, look, Andy Katz is reporting that this thing just happened. We reported it 10 minutes ago. We didn't have any way to tell anybody.
Yeah, we got this first.
Yeah, there's no way to tell anybody. Now there's Facebook, there's Twitter, there's whatever else, and all of it is a big component. I would tell you the one thing I learned as I was growing older, as I watched other people resist this change. Like, I remember one friend of mine who was a reporter said one time he turns his phone off at 7:00 every night because at some point you got to call it a day. And I was like, well, then you're just not very good at your job.
Right.
I say that respectfully. You might be a great father and a great husband, but you can't be a great reporter if you turn your phone off. I saw people, I've heard other people in the profession years ago when all this stuff was first coming to the forefront. Well, they don't pay me to tweet. So I'm not tweeting. Okay, well now you're becoming irrelevant.
Yeah, so just keep relevancy.
Yeah. You have to adapt with the times. I don't know that everything I'm doing now or everything the world consists of now are things that I enjoy, but I've never tried. I've always tried to not get stuck in my ways. To say, hey, this is the world I want to live in. You guys can change, but I don't need to. I've changed dramatically from the age of 26 to 36 to 46 because the world changes. And if you don't change with it, then you look up and you've been left behind.
Yeah, and something else you mentioned was the breaking news stuff, and that's how you got your big break initially. And we've talked about this before. That was in the beginning. That was what you were known for, is breaking news and doing those kind of things. And then it transitioned to where now, truthfully, when you look at it, like quote unquote breaking news is not what it used to be at all.
Well, there's still a market for that, but it's not the market in which I operate.
Right.
These are conversations I've actually had with bosses over the years. Like, because you've broken news. Do you know what it takes to break news? It's skill on some level, sure. More than that, dedication, focus, time, commitment,
relationships.
How do you create those relationships and then nurture them? You have to stay in touch with people all the time. You have to constantly reach out, even when you don't need anything or want anything. Because, Adrian Wojnarowski is one of my close friends. Mm-hmm. And one of the things he lives by, has always lived by, is when I need somebody for a story, I do not want my call to them to be the first time I've called them since the last time I needed something.
Right.
Because then you're just calling me when you need something.
Right.
You're not actually...
have a relationship.
We don't actually have a relationship. Just when you need something, you call me. So as my career started to evolve in these different directions, and I'm hosting a show 5 days a week, then another podcast 3 days a week, I'm flying to New York, I'm in studio 2 nights a week, I might be sidelining here, might be guest hosting this other show, I've got to rank 26 basketball teams every morning, I've got to write this column. I got to a point where I can't be on the phone with these people all the time too. So I even went to my bosses and said, what do you want me to be? I can't be all of these things. I think this is true. I don't say it for any reason other than I believe it's true. I don't think there's another sports media member in the country who does all the things I do at the level at which I do them. And I don't mean the level like good. I mean the level like the national level. Right. Columnist, hosting 2 podcasts, working in studio, working on the sideline, guest hosting television shows. Like, I don't think anybody else does all of those things. And so I got to a point where I was like, I can't do all those things and spend 2 hours a day on the phone with agents and sources. So I got to I'll stumble into a story every once in a while, but I can't pursue them the way I used to because I'm asked to do too many things. So you're right. My initial career was I was a reporter. Mm-hmm. I broke stories. I broke news. But as my career evolved and I became more of a talker than a reporter, like I don't even describe myself as a reporter anymore. Sometimes somebody will. Gary Parrish, reporter. I'm like, not really a reporter. I'm more of a talker now.
Yeah.
But you just can't do everything. And to be a reporter, you have to talk to sources all day, every day. And I don't have the bandwidth for that anymore.
Yeah, because I think Shams was talking about at the trade deadline that he was like 17 or 18 hours of screen time a day.
Yeah.
So like those guys, Adrian, Shams, Ian Rappaport, Adam Schefter, the NFL guys.
Yeah.
They just have to spend absurd amounts of time on their phone.
They do. And like I've been at Woj's house, like, I go to New York every week during the season, and Woj lives right over across the Hudson in New Jersey. So, some nights sometimes I'll fly in on Monday and he'll be like, hey, just come out to the house. We'll drink a beer and watch a game. And he's like
this
the whole time.
Yeah.
Like not in a way
disrespectful way.
Yeah. It's like, he has hey, hold on one second. GM from the whoever's calling.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on one second. Here's an agent from whoever calling. Like his phone is constantly going. That's his life, and he is well compensated for it. I would not like to, at this stage of my life,
my brain would explode.
Be in a position where I have to answer the phone every time it rings. I'm now in a position where I can answer the phone if I want to, or Unless it's emergency, I can get back to you tomorrow. I'm
Yeah.
doing something else now. But when you are in the news breaking business, that's how you make your money. You got to take every call and you got to make every call. And the thing so that's a side of it that I would not like. But if you ever pay attention to Shams, Woj, Schefter, it's really all they do. They break news and they talk about it on TV. That's it. They're not writing columns. They're not writing long stories like they used to.
Not doing daily shows.
They're not planning a daily show. They just talk to people, break news when you get it, then come on TV and talk about it. That's their job.
Yep.
So their jobs, that's what they do. This is what I do. They're very different things.
Yeah. So was it a natural progression for you, or was it like, I don't want to be doing this for the rest of my life as far as constantly on the phone, or did it just naturally happen?
It naturally happened. You mentioned speaking to college students. I do that sometimes too. And one of the go-tos is like the professor asks you to tell your story. And I always tell my story and then I immediately say, no, that's not going to be your story because that story doesn't even exist anymore.
Right.
The truth is, in this era, if you are talented at any of the one things, you will be asked to do all of the other ones. If you're a talented writer, you're going to be asked to go on radio, go on TV. If you're a talented radio host, you're going to be asked to go on TV. If you're talented on TV, somebody's going to want you to write something at some point. You need to be able to do all of these things. And honestly, if you want to make a great living, you need to be able to do all of these things. But I never sought out any of this stuff other than I want to work at the Commercial Appeal and cover Tiger basketball.
Right.
That's the thing I sought out. And it was interesting. I'm not like this anymore, but for much of my career, it was always like, if I can ever have this, I'll be happy. And then I just wasn't. It was like, okay, I'm in college, but if I could just get a job at the Commercial Appeal,
that's it.
Boy, I'd be happy.
Yeah.
Then I got a job at the Commercial Appeal literally before I even graduated college, covering high schools. A year into it, man, I guess I'm fine, but what I really want to do is now cover Tiger basketball. If I could ever get that beat, then I'll be happy.
Yeah.
Got that beat. About a year into it. This is dream come true and all that, but if I could ever get one of those national jobs, the .coms, ESPN.com, CBSSports.com, then that's the dream. Then I'd be happy. Got that. Then it was like, I don't know why I'm not in that studio talking. I can talk with any of these people. I have good information. If I could ever get on TV, then I'd be happy. Then you get on TV and it's like, well, it's like, but at some point you got to stop reaching.
Yeah.
At some point you just have to enjoy what it is you have.
Absolutely.
And I have certainly reached that point now where I'm not trying to get anything else. I love what I'm doing. And if it never gets bigger than what it's already been, I've done better than 99% of people who get into this profession. But to the extent that I was intent on doing all these things, it was one step at a time. Like I just wanted something bigger than what I was doing always.
Yeah.
In terms of, I want to shed writing and be more of a radio host, TV person, that's not something I consciously did. It just sort of happened. Once they and it always starts with one thing. It's like my radio career started with me just being a radio guest. As Tiger basketball beat writer, they wanted to have you on Sports 56 or wherever. I'd go on, I'd be a guest. Then Chris Vernon and I were around the same age. He'd be like, hey, why don't you come in studio with me every Tuesday and we'll just chop it up and have a good time, because we laugh at the same things. And then so I started doing that. Then it was like, oh, well, he sounds like he could maybe host a show. Let's try that. And then it just sort of evolves and evolves and evolves. And I kept getting opportunities. Honestly, I think the people at CBS who hired me to be a writer, but then the TV people saw me doing podcast and radio, and they were like, if you could just say those same things
in front of a camera,
well, that's perfect for what we're trying to do. Let's give him a shot. And the next thing you know, I'm going every week. So it all just sort of happened. Again, I didn't, my goal was not to go to CBS and be on television, fly to New York and be in studio. But once it was put onto my radar, it was obviously something I was interested in.
Yeah, you talked about like constantly climbing this ladder and being like, this is it, this is it, this is it. Is it not, like, to you, is it not such a freeing feeling not to have that anymore? Because I personally am not like that. And you know this. We talked about a potential job opportunity, and I told you, like, my happiness was more important than the potential of that and what came with it. And so for me, it's always like, I'm okay with however small or big it is. I'm not chasing anything as long as I'm doing this in some capacity. I'm happy. But is it not freeing to just be like, I'm content where I'm at. I'm not, allowing it to control me anymore about chasing this dream and chasing these different goals.
Yes. I now have financial security. I have job security. I have I have long contracts with 2 employers. I'm in a really good place.
Yeah.
And there's so much jealousy in this industry. People backstabbing, and I hear about it almost everywhere. At ESPN, boy, I could tell you stories. You watch people sometimes on the same TV show, and I can just tell you
They hate each other.
they hate each other.
Yeah.
Maybe it comes across on TV, maybe it doesn't. I can just tell there's a lot of that. I genuinely don't have that with anybody. And I was trying to make sense of that because I can remember being jealous of other people at certain points and going, why did they get that opportunity and not me? Why them, not me? Or I can't believe this person got this. And as I sit here today at this age, I'm just happy for other people's success and jealous of nobody's. Like, I don't root against people. I don't root against anybody. And so I was talking with a friend about this, sort of a therapy session type thing, I guess. And I was like, what happened to me where I don't have those feelings anymore? Like, I'm not trying to pretend I've always been comfortable and content, but I really am now. And nobody else's success threatens me the way it might have once upon a time. And the conclusion this person reached, I think on some of it, it's like, once you get enough, what anybody else is doing shouldn't matter to you. You got what you need. And I really have gotten to a point where I've got what I need. I've got a great family. I've got great jobs. I work with people I like and respect. And honestly, I have incredible freedom. Nobody tells me what to do. Nobody tells me how to do it. I have bosses who trust me to do whatever job I'm doing well. And that's nice too. Like, I'm in a good spot. I don't take it for granted because not everybody is.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, I felt that pressure at the beginning too when I first got in, of just like, I feel like I deserve more. Like, I feel like I need to be in this spot or in this spot, and jealous of other people. Just like, I feel like I'm better in this area and I could have gotten that. And it's just like, what are you doing to yourself? You know?
That's a tough, like, it cuts both ways though. I think when you are ambitious, sometimes that can leave a hint of jealousy, but that ambition gets you to the next place.
Right.
So I think that drive is a good core fundamental thing, but it is calming when you reach a point where it's like, I don't have to win every award anymore. I don't have to anything that I used to care about. Like, I don't know. I think I'm as I'm talking through it, I'm wondering if it comes off the wrong way. It's not like I'm good. Like, I have no worries in the world. I worry about things all the time.
Right.
I'm just saying I've reached a point where if this is my career, it's
cool.
better than I ever could have imagined, and I don't need anything else. Like, will I ever be the person who sits at the main desk on Big CBS on Saturday afternoons for a Big Ten SEC doubleheader? I don't know. I guess I'd like to be, but I don't know if I'll ever, if Seth Davis moves on, be moved into that chair. And maybe once upon a time in my life, that would have been like, if that doesn't happen, that'll be a letdown. Now it's like, if it happens, great. If it doesn't, God, I'm still great.
Right.
Everything's good. Everything's good. It's nice to be in that headspace. Now I'll worry about other things.
Right.
But,
right.
but
There's plenty of other stuff.
Yeah,
to worry
plenty
about.
of other stuff. But from a career perspective, I just, I wake up every day wondering how I got to this place. As you know, like, I'm a public school kid from Horn Lake, Mississippi. I am the first college graduate in my family. I was not set up to succeed. I'm not supposed to be doing this. Statistically speaking, I'm not trying to make jokes, but like, statistically speaking, I should probably be hanging drywall or something, The idea that I am now in a position where I fly to New York, stay in a nice hotel, car service picks me up, go get my makeup done, talk on TV, fly back home. The idea that that's my life is crazy to me.
Yeah.
And it's still, I find myself having these little touch me moments, like pinch me moments, like, wow, this is really my life. Once upon a time, this didn't even seem possible. And now it's like actually what I'm doing. That's a wild thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And to me, like you're talking about just the humility of it in a sense, because you said now like you root for other people, like you're not jealous of them. You enjoy seeing other people's success. And that, to me, that is, it's so cool to be in that position where it's like, I don't care anymore to root against people. Like I'm happy for them that they're doing that.
Yeah.
Like there's been multiple moments over the last several years, including you transitioning over to Grind City, where I'm just like, that's awesome. Like that's just a cool thing to see. And I don't know, it's fun for me to be in that headspace rather than constantly like climbing this unclimbable ladder that has no end.
Yeah, and I also just think if you spend a lot of time resentful or jealous or rooting against other people, you're just gonna. That's a lot of energy put into a lot of stuff that you can't control.
And people feel that coming off of you too.
Yeah. Oh, I've got friends who like they're jealous of everybody and they hate everybody. And anybody who is more successful than them, they think is a fraud or a sellout or whatever. And I just don't. I don't operate that way. I haven't been in this place that long, but like I've always like never thought of any of this stuff as cutthroat. Like I must succeed and you must fail.
Yeah.
Like I remember one time we were on radio and I mentioned, maybe Greg Gaston or Wolo or something, and somebody pulled me aside and they were like, "Hey, you shouldn't really talk about the competition." And let me be clear, I was talking about positively. Like, "Hey, I heard Wolo on the call last night. He was great. Wolo's awesome. Like I grew up listening to him. He's a friend of mine.
Yeah.
Greg Gaston's a friend of mine. All these people, or most of these people." And somebody was like, "Well, you shouldn't talk about the competition." And I was like, "Yeah, that seems stupid to me. Like, there's enough for all of us. We're doing fine. I see the ratings and I see what you're charging advertisers for the show. We're fine. I'm not threatened by them.
Right.
And if somebody wants to listen to them instead of me, that's fine too. I'm okay. I have never been okay. I left AM 730 for 92.9. Now I want AM 730 to fail. I didn't care. Like whatever. One of my best friends was still at AM 730. Chris Vernon. I wanted him to succeed. I wasn't threatened by his success, nor he was by mine. I just left 92.9. I don't root against those people. I hope everybody succeeds, including Gabe, who, replaced me. I reached out to him when he got the job and told him if I could ever help him with anything or if he ever had any questions about how to navigate that amount of time and afternoon drive, like I'm here for him. Me and him, we don't know each other really, but like we graduated from the same school. He is now doing well in a profession that he has found himself in, and I want him to do nothing but good things. Like I want people to succeed. I don't root against anybody.
Yeah, and I mean I can speak for that firsthand, and I've never actually talked about this on camera or on podcast or anything, and this is not an ego stroke. This is just us talking about real stuff and about kind of our friendship and our relationship together. But when I was 18 years old, still in high school, was 2 weeks from graduating, had no idea what I wanted to do in this world. And me and my dad are talking about it one night, and he's like, "Well, what are you good at in school?" "Well, I'm good at writing, but what can you do with that?" And he was like, "Well, how do you pair that with something?" Obviously been a sports fan my entire life. And he was like, "Think about it. Think about being a sports writer." And I'm like, "That's never going to happen." 2 weeks later, I remember this so vividly. I was in like my second period class or second block class in high school. I was about to leave, and I text my dad and I go, "Hey, didn't you say you went to high school with Gary Parrish?" I mean, my dad's, I think 3 or 4 years older than you, but went to the same school. Went to Horn Lake for a minute.
But I have known him since all the way back then. Yes.
Right. And so I was like, "Don't you know Gary?" And he was like, "Yes." Also, he did some advertisements through 92.9 for his business. And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Can you get me his number?" Also does work for you as well. So there was a lot of connections there.
Yeah.
And so he sends me your number, and I'm like, I remember being so nervous because I was like, "There's no way this dude's going to text me back. Like I'm an 18-year-old kid that he has no idea who I am." So I text Gary, text you and go, "Hey, I'm thinking about being a sports writer. Is there any advice you have?" And instead of like giving me the runaround of just like, "Oh, this is what you do. This is how I made it," took me out for coffee. Once again, I'm an 18-year-old kid. You're as successful as you have been up to that point. Sit down. We probably talked for an hour, hour and a half, something like that. And something that you said when we sat down that day sticks with me still to this day, 7, 8 years later. You told me, if it's a dream, if it's what you want to do, just go for it.
Right.
Like, don't worry about anything else. Don't worry about the possible outcomes. Yes, one day you have to take care of a family and be financially stable and all this stuff, but just go for it.
Right.
Like, you had no idea what kind of any kind of talent, if I had any talent
Right.
at all. It was just go for it.
Well, I'm a big believer in, chase a dream, not recklessly or irresponsibly or foolishly, but enthusiastically chase it, because my dad's awesome. But one of the things I remember throughout my childhood is he has these little go-to phrases, and they're all these little ticks or whatever. But if you were to ask him, "Hey, how you doing?" which is a very normal thing to say to somebody when you see them, he would say, just 32 more years till I retire. And then, a year later, you'd be around somebody, "Hey, how you doing?" 31 more years till I retire. That was his answer every time. And it was just a throwaway line on a surface level. I never paid it much mind. As I got older, I was like, he's literally counting down his life.
Yeah.
Like, he's counting down till this thing is over, this thing being the job that he has to do every day. And he gave me good advice. He said, find something that you love to do, and then find somebody who'll pay you to do it. And that is how I got into sports writing. In a perfect world, I'd be a second baseman for the Mets, but I wasn't good enough for that. So I knew that I loved sports, and I knew I had a talent for writing. And so I just decided I'll be a sports writer, because, oh boy, you get to go to games. And it was this glamorized idea of what being a sports writer is. That's what motivated me. Not money. I wasn't motivated by, I could have done other things to make more money, at least in that time.
Right.
Regardless of the things I have now that my career has provided me, I was not motivated to get into this, to live in the house that I live in or drive any of that stuff. It was just like, man, it sounds like I won't count down my life. It sounds like I'll enjoy doing the work as opposed to waiting to get off of work. And I can tell you that has been my reality. I enjoy my days off, but I enjoy my days at work.
Yeah.
Like, today's fun. I'm just preparing a show, doing a show. Today's a good day. I like working. And it's why, if you told me tomorrow I could retire, I wouldn't. You hear this sometimes. If you won Powerball tomorrow, would you retire? A lot of people would. I wouldn't. I don't think I would do all these jobs, but I'd still do some of them because I enjoy doing them. That's one of the real, find something you enjoy doing. And if you think there's something out there that is theoretically it, chase it. And that was my advice to you. It'd be my advice to anybody. And, you mentioned being hesitant to reach out, and I understand why. I was, 18 years old once too. But I've tried to, and I'm not going to say I'm perfect, because I'm sure I've missed an email from somebody here or there. But when a young person does take the time to reach out to me, even when I'm busy, I try to circle back with them. It's easier outside of season than it is in season. But I remember what it was like to be young and confused and scared and unsure. And if there would have been somebody there to tell me, don't worry so much. You don't have to have all the answers right now. Just keep working as hard as you can work, putting yourself in good positions, and then something will pop. You'll figure it out. I didn't have anybody there to tell me that. And so I was just constantly like, am I doing the right thing? Is this working? Is this going to work? Am I going to be a failure? The truth is, I didn't know what I was doing, but I was working hard, and I kept putting myself in positions to get opportunities, and I was lucky enough to take advantage of them. But now my son's around that age, and he is very unsure about what direction he wants to take his career, and he stresses about it. I know, I could see it, I can hear it. And the thing I try to tell him is like, dude, you're 20 years old. You don't have to know what you're going to do for the rest of your life right now.
Right.
Just keep doing things you think are interesting, that you have a passion for, and eventually you'll find yourself in a spot. You'll look up and you won't even know how you got there. You'll just realize you're finally there. And so that's, I think, evergreen advice. Like, find something you have a passion for and then pursue it. Don't be stupid about it. Like, don't be 45 years old still pursuing something that if it was going to happen, it would have already happened.
It would have came, yeah.
But there's the idea that you got to have life figured out by 20 or 22 or even 30, just not true. You just keep chasing things that you find interesting, and hopefully you figure out exactly what that is at some point.
Yeah, for sure. So switching gears a little bit, with over 2 decades of sports coverage, both locally and nationally, what are some of the moments that when you think back, when you reflect, that kind of stick out to you the most? And I know you spoke earlier about going to games and the glamorization of that. Trust me, it gets old.
I don't care about that anymore.
It gets old. But just some of the moments that you've been in and some of the things that you've seen, what are some that stick out to you that goes, okay, that one, that was cool to be there for that?
I was at the 2008 championship game, the Kansas-Memphis game, and I have a vivid memory of, like, I was sitting courtside. Memphis is up 9, less than 2 to go. And, I grew up a Memphis fan. I care deeply about that program and those players. Like, it's real neat for me to, at this, age, be able to call somebody like Elliot Perry a friend, because, like, Elliot Perry was a larger-than-life figure than I was a kid. So it was this moment at the 2008 championship game. I look out across the court, and, like, the Memphis section is there, and it's like Jerry Schilling and Justin Timberlake and not sure who else. A lot of recognizable faces, and it was like, wow, this is really happening. I am courtside to watch Memphis win a national championship, and there are these prominent Memphians right across from. It was just, it's just like take a picture of this, and because this might never happen again. And then, of course, it all blows up. But I was there for that. And that was a cool experience. At this point, I've done most things, not everything that I would like to do, but most things. And I tell you, I don't care about going to the games anymore. I don't need that. I go to Grizzlies playoff games because I feel like I need to maybe be, but honestly, I don't know that I actually need to be there. I used to feel a little guilty, like maybe I'm coming up short by not going to as many games as I used to, because, during basketball season, I fly up on Monday, I leave Monday, I drop my kids off at school, and then I get on a plane. And then I'm there Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, and I don't get home till Thursday night, because when I was younger, I would take the 6 a.m. flight and get back home. And as you get older, you just that takes a toll on you. You can't do that anymore. And so, you can, but it's miserable. So, I can take the 6 a.m. flight on 2 hours sleep, get home, but I'm dead when I get there. Or I can sleep in, stay, take a night flight home and get. Point is, I've just been away from my wife and kids since Monday morning. I might not see them again until Thursday night. And if they're asleep by the time I get home, I won't see them again until Friday morning. It's a crazy way to live. So how am I going to justify then Saturday night, hey, I got to go to a basketball game? Now I need to be at home now with my family. Right. So I would sometimes feel like, well, am I doing what I need to be doing? And, then somebody pointed out to me, who's the most famous talker of sports in the country? It's probably Stephen A. Smith now. He didn't go to games.
Nope.
He comes on television every morning and talks about the things everybody's talking about. Does it, whether you like it or not, he's the top.
Yeah.
And he's not in arenas every night. He's just, you don't have to, it's not a requirement. So I don't even know that I need to be there, but the point is I don't enjoy it like I used to. Mm-hmm. I've seen it. I'd rather watch these things on TV. There are some I've been to Duke Carolina games at Cameron Indoor. That's cool. I've been to when I'm there, I don't take it for granted. I look around, but I don't need to be there anymore. I've done enough. There was a time where it was I want to do this thing so I can say I did this thing. I don't need to impress anybody anymore. Yeah. I've done enough.
Yeah.
I can do my job competently without being at every single game. And I think I could argue on some level do it better sometimes because I can be more focused and see more things and work in real time when I'm at home.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that. I think that is it's starting to be an outdated view on.
There used to be all these rules like you got to be at the game or else you can't write about it. I can write about it just as well as you can write about it.
And I agree with
from
you.
my desk.
Probably better.
Yeah, maybe
being
better.
able to see the TV angles and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. There are things when I'm at a game live I miss that I would catch if I were watching on TV.
Mm-hmm.
There might be things that become storylines within a game that if you're not watching the broadcast, you don't pick up on them because you're watching without play-by-play, without analysis. You're just watching a game. So yeah, I could make an argument that I'm better off watching on TV than I am actually being there. But you're right. That used to be a rule. Like if you're not at the game, you can't write about it. Now, it doesn't matter. It also used to be you can't root. You can't have a rooting. Now it's like, Scott Van Pelt hosts Sports Center. He loves Maryland. It's fine.
Yeah.
Nobody's bothered by it. Right. A lot of those old journalistic rules, they don't really exist anymore.
No, it's gone away, thankfully, because it was.
It is goofy.
Yeah.
Like I remember when I was the Memphis beat writer, my wife graduated from Ole Miss, and we went to Italian Fest or something, and my oldest son was in a little Ole Miss shirt, and I was like, Kelly, you got to change him, because like if I'm at Italian Fest and somebody sees my kid walking around with an Ole Miss shirt on, that's going to become a thing.
Right.
Oh, the Memphis beat writer's got his kids in Ole Miss clothes.
Yeah.
Now, like I couldn't care less.
Right.
I paint my kids' faces red and blue. It doesn't matter. Anybody that gets bothered by that is just a weirdo.
I agree.
But there was a time where that kind of stuff didn't matter.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the traveling to New York and the family. I know that's something that you've done for a while. How did you learn how to balance that? Because there aren't many people in the sports world. If you look at percentages, there aren't many people in the sports world as far as the journalistic side of it that do something like that. You go to games or whatever and you're away, but to be away for the majority of a week and have 3 kids and a wife, what's that balance
It's
like
hard.
for you?
I mean, there's no getting around it. Like I can lie to you, but the truth is it's hard.
Yeah.
And here's the truth, the real truth. It's not that hard on me. I'm flying first class, watching a movie, having a drink. A luxury vehicle picks me up at the airport, takes me to a nice hotel. I have a nice dinner in New York, wake up the next day. Car service takes me to the studio or I walk. You get your makeup done. You talk on TV. They ask you what you want to eat. They go order it for you. They car picks you up, takes you back to it's nice. It's a nice life. Meantime, my wife's here trying to run a store that she owns and raise 3 kids. It's harder on her, but on a family, it's hard. It's never a way that I would have envisioned living. In fact, when I was a kid, I remember I had a friend whose dad worked out of town. So it was like, yeah, my dad leaves every Monday, comes home every Friday. I was like, that is crazy. That's more or less what I do now.
Yeah.
You get used to it. But it's challenging. I don't know that I'll be able to do it forever. It's especially tough with young kids. But the way my wife and I sort of rationalize it is I have to put us in a tough situation for about 4 months a year. But man, the other 8 months are nice.
You're there the majority of the time.
Yeah, I'm there. Like on a normal day now, I am for the first time really in my young kids' lives at home every day when they get home from school. That's nice. I take them to school every morning. Now, there are these months where I'm just going to be gone, and we just deal with it.
Right.
But the rest of the year, work really hard for 4 months so that the rest of the year is set up for you. And like tons of Delta Sky miles, tons of Marriott points.
Yeah.
We don't have to pay for vacations. That's a perk. But the good outweighs the bad, but it's not ideal. I wouldn't recommend it for everybody, and it might not work for everybody, but we've figured out a way to make it work for us.
Okay, I want to close on this real quick just because I'm interested to hear your thoughts on it. Current landscape of college basketball. It's the wild, wild west now. It's free agency. It's NBA free agency basically in college basketball. What is this time like for you to sit back and watch and go, how did we get here? Like, this is absurd. I think there's positive and negative. I'm not saying that.
Yeah,
but
there's definitely I won't deny it's chaotic. It has made college coaches' jobs harder. I guess when I'm talking to them, I just say, "Hey, you make $5 million a year. It's fine.
Yeah, you'll live.
You'll live." And it really doesn't change the order of things much. People were all concerned about an unbalanced play. It'll create an unbalanced playing field. Well, there's already an unbalanced playing field. Do you think Alabama and Alabama State are playing the same, living in the same world when it comes to anything? We were always going to get here. It's just messier than it needed to be. And it's messier now than I think it will forever be. Eventually, these players are going to be employees and they'll be paid by the school and it'll be collectively bargained and there'll be a union and they'll have agreements, and it'll be a professional sports league tied to institutions of higher learning. But for now, because the NCAA has fought both figuratively and literally so intensely to prevent that from happening, that we've now reached this place. They didn't ever want to get here, but they kept losing in court. Because every time they tell a player, you can't take this, the player would sue them. Not every time, but sometimes. And anytime you put NCAA rules in front of a judge and apply law to it, they don't hold up under the scrutiny of law. You're about to see another one. Here recently, you're getting these gambling scandals at like Iowa State. Mm-hmm. And it's weird because it's a big headline, Iowa gambling scandal. And then you read it, and it's like, okay, what's actually happening here? Were they shaving points? No. Were they throwing games? No. They were just betting on sports. Iowa student athletes betting on sports. Oh, is that illegal? No. Totally legal. So what's the problem? Well, it's against NCAA rules. Well, what's going to happen when one of these Iowa players sues the NCAA and says, who are you to tell me I can't do something that is legal to do in my state?
Yeah.
I didn't agree to your rules. I didn't negotiate these terms. Who are you to penalize me for doing something that is 100% legal to do? Every other student on this campus of age can do it. But you're telling me I can't because I play baseball? I can't bet on the NFL? Somebody's going to win that case. And then that rule will go away.
Yep.
That's the story of the NCAA. They create rules to try to control everything, mostly the money. And then when people push back on the rules and take them into our legal system, they lose it just about every single time. And it's why I don't know that they'll cease to exist, but they will cease to have any real power over how things are done. Eventually, we'll get to a place where this will be a headline. The University of Memphis has signed 4-star point guard Billy Banks to a 2-year, $2.6 million contract. Yep. You'll read that. That's the way that's going to go someday. It's kind of already going that way.
It's just not publicized.
It's just not placed in those terms for legal reasons, but that's going on now. Yep. Like Nigel Pack signed a 2-year deal with LifeWallet.
Yep.
The implication being, wink, wink, you need to be at Miami for 2 years to make sure you get this money.
Right.
It's going on now. It'll just be more transactional in a public way. The same way you hear Kevin Durant has agreed to a 3-year, $145 million contract extension with the Phoenix Suns, whatever. You'll hear that about college players.
Yep.
That's going to be a real thing.
Completely agree. Yeah, I love that analysis on it because it's unquestionably where it's heading. It's just too obvious and it makes too much sense. But that's going to do it for us. Thank you guys for watching. If you're on YouTube, like, subscribe, comment, or head over to bluffcitymedia.co. Check out everything we got over there. Gary, I appreciate it, man. Thank you for coming in studio and have a good one.
It's my pleasure. It's nice to see you doing all this.
Thank you for listening to this episode of One on One. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a rating and a review wherever you download your podcasts. Also, like and subscribe to the Bluff City Media YouTube page. We will see you back here next time.